better aim is one of the most sought after skills in any first-person shooter. It lets you make flashy plays, get a better KD, and win more games so you can rank up. That's why in this video, I'm going to give you 10 tips that are guaranteed to help you get better aim overnight. Everything from how to get better aim in minutes by changing your settings, ways you can practice to continue getting better aim over time, and even other skills that directly complement your aim. If this video helps you, leave a like and let's get started. You need to relax your hand when aiming. If every time you're walking around and trying to aim at enemies, you're absolutely death gripping your mouse, just like fucking veins popping out on your hand, it makes your aim incredibly jerky when you try to flick, and a lot of times you will over flick. Whereas if you relax your hand, it makes your aim a lot more fluid, allowing you to track enemies better, and overall you'll be more accurate on moving targets. Not only that, but you'll also be better at tracking during recoil control. Because sure, if you are death gripping your mouse, you might be able to get a tight spread on your recoil, but then if you see an enemy, or maybe the enemy you're shooting at starts moving, now you can no longer control recoil and track them at the same time. You need to lower your sensitivity in Siege. So if you have a high sensitivity, then you have a worse margin for error. If I want to aim from the left side of this to the right side of this, I move my hand a certain distance across my mouse pad based on what my sensitivity is. On a high sensitivity, if I move my hand an inch, it'll go all the way to the other side of this painting. Whereas if I get a lower sensitivity, then whenever I move from left to right, I have to move my hand a lot farther to get there. The benefits of this is, let's imagine I'm aiming at a zombie's head. Whenever I'm aiming at her, if I move my hand 1 inch to the right, I will still be on her head. That means whenever I'm aiming, right, the actual skill of aiming comes from putting your hand in the right spot to get your crosshair on their head. That means whenever I am aiming, I don't actually have to be as accurate with my hand. Whereas if I'm on a high sensitivity, I need to be incredibly accurate with where I place my hand. Lowering your sensitivity gives you an instant massive bonus to your aim that, I'm not kidding, won't just change your aim overnight, but it will change it the exact minute that you actually change the setting. Don't always aim for the head in Siege. Here's why. Because of the one-shot headshot mechanic in Siege, everyone is always aiming exclusively for the head. But what they sometimes forget is that 2 to 3 shots to the body is still a kill in this game. Watch how fast I can get 3 bullets off. That's 3 bullets. They're already dead. Hitting them in the head is barely a benefit compared to that time to kill. Meaning if you feel inaccurate sometimes, maybe instead of always trying to make sure you hit them in this tiny little target that is their head, instead you hit them for the huge target that is their body. It's almost impossible to miss. There are 3 things that are arguably more important than raw aim if you're looking to get more kills. One is crosshair placement. The reason crosshair placement is so important is because if I'm coming around here and then I see Ella here and I need to flick to her, that requires aim. But if instead I were to focus on having really good crosshair placement and checking every single one of my angles, I wouldn't even have to aim at all. Not only will it help you react better to enemies, but it will also help you pre-fire them. Number 2 is movement. Now, the reason I put movement after crosshair placement is because it has to be in combination. If you are just trying to lean all over the place, right, but you can't actually pre-aim them at all, then what's the point? So let's say I quick lean this angle here and I see that Ella is behind the bar. Now I need to line up my crosshair with where I remember her head being, crouch, and pre-fire the Ella. Now Ella is dead and she didn't even have a chance to kill me. Whereas if I had bad movement, I would have just checked the angle and there's a good chance that she kills me whenever I check that angle there. The other benefit to movement is literally dodging bullets. So if I swing this Ella here, then it's fairly easy for her to track my head. Whereas if I have good movement, what I would do is I would peek out here, see Ella, I then lean this way to move my head position and crouch. And then I continue shooting as I move. Maybe I uncrouch as well. That means even if you have bad aim, they just won't be able to hit you because I'll be peeking out and they just won't be able to touch me. And finally is positioning. Positioning is important for a couple reasons. The first is because it covers your body. If Ella's just standing out here in the open, it's very easy for me to hit a ton of shots on her because her entire body is exposed. Versus if she has better positioning and is sitting behind here, now she is a tiny target that I have to be very accurate to hit. What this means is if you have good positioning, there is a higher chance that your enemies will miss you because you're a much smaller target. This really comes into play on pixel angles, because if I swing kitchen here, you can see how hard of a shot this here would be to hit, especially if I'm peeking into the angle. I also have to have great movement to not move too far and not be able to see her anymore. And the last benefit of having good positioning is preventing yourself from getting pre-fired. For example, this corner right here is bad positioning, because not only do I have to worry about the window here, but if somebody swings me in this corner, there's only one spot for me to be sitting. It is an easy pre-fire for them. Now, if instead you were sitting somewhere like here, for example, this is not the last position they check, so they can't get a guaranteed pre-fire. They have to check all the different angles, and on one of the angles, you're going to be there before the final one. Now, next kind of ties into movement, but the tip is essentially lean less. Everybody in Siege is constantly leaning all the time, but the downside of that is when you lean, your crosshair actually moves. If I don't move my mouse at all and I lean, you can see if I'm not leaning, my crosshair is on her head, but if I lean left, it's off her head. In general, if you lean, it will screw up your aim. Now, leaning a bit is great, but leaning mid gunfight, unless you are absolutely ready to correct your aim for that lean, it will just throw off your aim and cause you to miss shots, right? If I swing this corner here and I see Ella, and then I lean as I start shooting, I'm now shooting this door frame, or even just to the right of her head. So before you swing an angle, just lean to the left, aim down sights, and then aim at their head whenever you peek. So to sum it up, just don't add extra steps into your aim. If you are struggling with aim, try and minimize the factors that your aim has to account for as much as possible. Next is learn to predict enemy movement for easier tracking. What I mean by this is, let's say there's somebody quick peeking on this door here. If they quick peek and they see me, I need to anticipate that the next move they're going to do after getting the information from the quick peek is probably a crouch pre-fire. So if I see somebody quick peek, instead of being like, oh, I need to try to hit them on their next quick peek, I need to be ready for the fact that they're going to pre-fire. So I should change my head position and I should pre-fire where they are likely to swing. That way their bullets, when they pre-fire, will go over my head and I return fire and hit them in the head instantly. This is the best way to improve your raw aim in Siege. If you go to the training tab and then go to target drill, select whatever map you want and go with these settings. Then it will give you very realistic practice as to what aiming will be like in an actual match. You actually have to clear these angles. So if I peek this guy here and I see that he's there, then next I peek out and I pre-fire him. That is what a lot of your gunfights are going to look like in Siege, and this will just give you perfect practice for that. If you press tab, it will also show you where the enemies are in case you ever find yourself lost and not being able to find enemies. One of the most important aspects of aiming is actually recoil, because there are three main aspects in aim. One is obviously your movement. As you move, your crosshair moves and you have to account for that. The other aspect is just raw aim. If I'm going from here to the radio, I just need to flick to the radio and shoot. And then finally, when I'm actually aiming at someone, I need to account for my recoil. All three of these combined makes aiming a lot more difficult, because you're not actually just flicking from A to B. Instead, you are flicking from A to B while also accounting for your movement and the enemy's movement, as well as recoil when actually shooting at them. So the less factors you have to worry about while aiming, the better. So if you can turn recoil control into essentially just muscle memory, then you will have a much easier time actually aiming, because there is less for you to focus on while doing so. And if you want to get really good at recoil, then check out this video here on the best way to get zero recoil in Siege, and no, it's not downloading cheats.